Today, we're diving into what you might call a modern myth. It comes from the writer Nathan McKnight, and it's a story that feels both incredibly ancient and shockingly immediate. It's a tale of love, of obsession, and a truly terrible fusion of souls, all happening against the backdrop of 1930s Harlem. But here's the thing. We're going to hear this story from the only one who can truly tell it, the creature at its very center. This is his account, his parable, scrawled into clay at the end of the world.
I'm going to try to record events just as they happened. But I have to tell you, the memories I carry from before my creation, they're like trying to see something through thick smoke. The story begins in Jewish Harlem, long before I became this prison of clay. It begins when I was a man.
My name was Paul Stein. In the ring, though, they called me Paul the Mall. I was a boxer, and I was a good one. My mother, she hated it, especially after I blinded an Italian kid in one eye. She always called my winnings blood money. But it was enough. It was enough for me and my fiancée, the absolute love of my life, Holly Landis. We had this beautiful, semi-luxurious apartment. In the afternoon, it was shaded by the new Empire State Building. That's where Holly worked. We were planning a grand wedding. Life was simple. It was ours. And then everything changed. A shadow just fell over us, a man named Israel ben Mohammed, some Arabian oil baron. First he bought Holly's company, then he bought our building, and suddenly these notices were everywhere, just popping up like weeds. New rules, punch cards to keep out the criminal element, and our rent, it more than tripled. It felt like our future was being dismantled one notice at a time.
Well, I wasn't gonna stand for it. I was a fighter, right? So I decided to go confront him. Our future, my Holly's future, it all depended on it. I went to the landlord's office, which was suddenly like a fortress of new locks and strange rules, and I pounded on his door. The second I got inside, the air was cold. I mean, it was a luxury I'd never even felt before. And there he was, Ben Mohammed, just lounging in a freestanding wash basin smoking this long pipe, and the smoke was just curling around him like a serpent. I pleaded with him. I told him about the wedding, about my mother, the dangers of my job. He just listened, His eyes were totally unreadable. Then he just sent me out to the foyer to wait. And I waited. Minutes stretched into an hour. I was getting so agitated, I started scratching the gold leaf off the furniture. Then this electric voice from a speaker tells me I'd be billed for it. And right after that, that same cold voice delivered his verdict.
Claiming my fiancé? The words they didn't make any sense. The voice explained that my tenancy was terminated. The lease was now in Holly's name. She would stay. With him. I just roared. I demanded to know who in the hell he thought he was. And then, a different voice came through the speaker. It was his voice.
And he explained everything. How, as a boy, he'd come to New York and fallen in love with a woman named Honey Landis, Holly's mother. He said Holly had her mother's face, a face he'd been obsessed with for decades. He was basically buying back a memory. And my Holly? She was the price. He told me to leave and to never come back. And just like that, with a few words from a box on the wall, my life was stolen from me.
They threw me out onto the street. I saw a worker putting up gold foil, chattering on about some utopia Ben Mohammed was building. And I just snapped. I threw his ladder, I bloodied his nose, and I ran as guards swarmed me. I fled all the way back to Jewish Harlem, back to my mother's cramped tenement. The old ghetto faces just stared at me, seeing a man who'd escaped, only to be dragged right back. I didn't belong anywhere anymore. The days just crawled by. I saw Holly once, a ghost in the window of our old apartment. I screamed her name, but she didn't seem to hear me. I was completely and utterly powerless.
The janitor from my old building, a kind man, he told me about someone who could help, a rabbi. My mother was horrified. Rabbi Samson, she whispered his name, said he was a lush, a whoremonger. They called him Uncut Samson. But he was also a renowned mystic. And no one, not even my mother, ever doubted his power. He was my only hope.
I went to his apartment, and the stench of filth and decay hit me from down the hallway. Samson was this fat, greasy slob, but his eyes had this unnerving intelligence to them. He told me I couldn't afford him, that Holly would be better off with a rich man. He mocked my love, my poverty. But then, he just disappeared behind a curtain for a moment.
And that was it. It is done. It was way too easy. I ran back to my old apartment, my heart just pounding with this terrible hope. And there she was, Holly,
waiting in the alley. But as I held her, I knew something was terribly wrong. Her eyes were empty. She was silent, just a beautiful, hollow shell. She would only respond to a direct command. "Are you okay?" "Yes." "What's happened to you?" "I don't know." She was a walking doll. This wasn't my Holly. This was a desecration.
A cold fury, like nothing I had ever known, just took hold of me. I took the empty shell of my Holly to my mother's place, and then I stormed back to the rabbi's. I was going to kill him. I kicked his door clean off its hinges, only to find Israel ben Muhammad already there, screaming at the rabbi.
All my rage just turned on Ben Muhammad. We fell on each other, just a tangle of fists and pure hate. But the fight wasn't ours to finish. Thick incense filled the room, and the whole world just went dark. We woke up bound together, suspended over this strange, smokeless fire. And then Rabbi Samson, laughing, revealed his true plan. He never cared about Holly. He pointed to this muscular clay sculpture in the corner, a golem he called it, shaped in the image of Ben Muhammad. He wanted our bodies. My strength and my rival's face and all of his billions.
The rabbi began to chant in a language older than cities. He fanned the flames, mocking us, saying he'd promised we'd each have sole power over the girl and that he never breaks a promise. I just screamed to God for help, and the fire, it was like a living thing. It answered. Samson addressed it by its ancient name, Yahweh. He demanded my strength and the oil baron's wealth. Then, as his own body began to melt and reshape itself into this younger form, he gave his final terrible command. Ensole the golem doubly.
I felt this pull, like I was being unmade. I could see my own body from the outside, just dissolving into smoke over the fire. My soul was this storm of love for Holly, hatred for Samson, hatred for Ben Muhammad, and now this new self-loathing, because his consciousness was crashing right into mine. We were one. The new, younger rabbi spoke. Yahweh, partition the golem. A line of fire seared right down the center of our new clay form. I, Paul, I was trapped on the right, and Ben Muhammad, he was on the left.
"Enjoy a prison, children," the new Samson said. And then he just left us in the dark. I tried to stand, but my left leg, it wouldn't move. "Damn it," I said, the words coming from the right side of my new mouth. A wave of fury just took me, and I started punching the left side of my own face with my right fist. My left arm flailed, trying to retaliate. We just struggled, two souls in one body, a civil war in a prison made of clay. And eventually, the left side of my mouth spoke. It was Baal Muhammad. Stop it, Mr. Stein, I really do love her."
We just collapsed, this broken thing, right in front of the magical fire. I couldn't think. I couldn't even cry. My only thought was Holly. My Holly. Then Ben Muhammad's thought echoed in my mind, a question from my cellmate. "Can this God of yours help?" We turned to the fire. We leaned forward as one.
I begged Yahweh to free Holly, but the entity told us its covenant with Samson was absolute. It had given each of us command over her, and that couldn't be breached. It couldn't give us our bodies back, but it could grant us one command. And it was Ben Muhammad who found the words, our shared desperation forging a single weapon. Then give this body the strength to overcome Rabbi Samson, Yahweh.
The flames just roared. Our clay body drank the fire, and it grew, hardening to this glassy sheen. The ceiling broke. Debris from the floors above rained down, feeding the fire, and we just got bigger and bigger until we burst right through the building itself. Even though we were divided, our purpose was one. My feet became the size of trolley cars. My strides stretched the length of a city block. We were a walking catastrophe.
I stumbled towards the Empire State Building. People were scattering like insects. I saw the tiny figure of the new Rabbi Samson scurry into one of the East Central apartment buildings, but he was nothing to me. My only care was Holly. I grabbed the skyscraper, my grip shattering windows and bending steel. I climbed. Until I could look with my left eye into the office where my Holly was, just emotionlessly taking money from a safe. "Holly?" My voice was this hoarse, inhuman roar. "Come here."
And she obeyed. She climbed right out onto my giant clay hand. But as she did, the whole building began to groan and tip. I backed away and just watched it fall like a great tree, obliterating the East Central apartments in a cloud of dust and death, taking Samson with it.
The city screamed with sirens, and no one even noticed when I took a breath and did a slow backstroke into the cold Atlantic with the mindless body of my Holly just sitting on my chest. As I write this now, eons have passed. The Atlantic, it's gone, split into these slushy puddles on either side of a vast mountain range. New York is gone. Harlem is gone. Soon the sun will expand and scorch me into a frozen statue, and you might find my body on the peak of a mountain that used to be an island. I'll be lying next to a pile of ashes that were once the bones of my dear Holly. But before I retreat into my private eternity, I have to finish my tale.
And yet, as my right hand finishes, the left hand picks up its own tool. It begins its own column of writing. It says, "In glory to the prophet I write this tale, to inform the reader of the true history of my creation, if it is Allah's will." You see, the war inside me, it never ends. We each just write our own truth on the same shared clay.
And so that's the parable of the Gilgamesh Golem. It's a story that really makes you ask, right? When our most powerful emotions, love, obsession, greed, when they're all fused together into one being, what's actually left of the self? Does anything of the original soul survive, or do we just become a battleground for an endless internal war? It's a question that echoes far, far beyond this one modern myth.